Good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon, chaps. A quick turnaround between game weeks this week. Adam, how are you, and what colour was your arrow in double game week 20?
Yeah, I'm all right. All spaffed out, but as we'll talk about later, I think I got a green arrow, but I'm quite frustrated. Triple captain Haaland. I got Let me tell you how many points I got. I got 80 something, 82 -4, which is reasonable. Reasonable green arrow. But I feel, although I've got green arrows every week since we've been back, I feel there was potential to get more. So maybe some missed opportunities. Transfers worked okay. -4 to bring in Botman for Cancelo, which was worked out well. I think the logic on not trusting any of the double game week defenses worked well. Go with Newcastle are the best. Bit lucky with the Mitrovic penalty miss, but and a bit unlucky rather. But that said, I own Mitrovic, so you can take your pick on whether I'm lucky or unlucky. And they brought Kane in as well, who got a deserved assist, definitely an assist, not even a question.
At least that's one that was given.
Yeah,
I reckon he smashed it to try and hit a defender to go in.
I see. I can see why that was given. I think he was shooting. I think the Edison one was strange.
I thought that was as well. That was Mahrez.
They've given almost identical ones before, so that was strange. I didn't think the Saka one was, and I didn't realize until last night that it hadn't been given until somebody said, because
it was given, and then it was initially, and then it was taken away almost at the end of the game. So it was quite for about 60 minutes, and then I think
that was rightfully taken off. The reason being, it was, whether it was a shot or cross, it wasn't on target. It was deflected on target, and then pushed it or pushed in. By the way, it's maybe a bit tough, but I can see the logic there at least. I couldn't see the logic with the Edison one. I mean, I think out of all three of those assists, the Kane, Saka, and Edison, the Edison was the most blatant one for me. But
I can't understand the Edison.
Just bounces off the Spurs defender's shoulder, doesn't it, and then falls into Mahrez's path.
Yeah, but he was his intended target because he was the only runner.
I think he was his.
Yeah.
That exactly that. And Kane made a similar one not too long ago against Palace. Admittedly, maybe there wasn't level of touch, but I found that strange. Anyway, I digress. So transfers worked out reasonably well. The people that returned for me were Arrizabalaga, which was nice timely return because I was doubting him, but he come through strong. Botman and Trippier. Shaw got 2 lots of appearance points. Maybe could have got a clean sheet against Palace, but again, happy to have him. An assist from De Bruyne. Obviously Rashford like everyone else, and then Kane and triple captain Haaland. I'm a frustrated triple captainer. I'm disappointed with the return. I've got.
Hang on. Just hold on there because we've got a whole section on this.
Yeah. So, okay. Don't worry.
Got a whole section on that now.
Yeah, and my bench did well. Which I mean, it's quite pleasing. My defensive options. I've got 18 points on the bench, but I'm quite pleased having White, having Bueno, Botman, Trippier, Shaw. I think I've got a solid defense. Reasonably happy with my goalkeepers. Bit of a decision this week, so it'll allow me to move the forward players around. So yeah, okay this week.
Yeah, I think an Arsenal defender is probably going to be a popular transfer in either this week or next week, isn't it? So to be slightly ahead of that curve is a good place to be. So well played, Adam. Rich only slightly behind, 77 -4.
Yeah, I'm virtually identical team to Adam's. I think the only difference between our teams is I've got Saka and he's got Alma on, so there's no need to go over everything he's just said.
No, that's fair.
Really, apart
was
from the fact that
was there any other differences at all?
Yeah, there was. The only other difference was something we'll come on to as Fergie says in great detail in a minute, which was I chose not to triple captain Haaland. That made it a challenging watch last night, particularly in the second half. No triple captain for me, but I was personally sort of fuming about the Saka assist, the second Saka assist. For me, I've had him for a while, 6 weeks or so, and I don't know another player that nearly scores points as much as Saka. You know, there's always a deflection on his goals or his crosses. There's always a nearly a penalty. He gets kicked to death and never gets anything for it. He's still returning, but only steadily. And so each week he sort of threatens to haul. And it's not that he's frustrating out. He just has the potential for so much more. I think you'll see a lot of people bringing him in for game week 23. So again, that feels like being one step ahead a little bit, and so certainly hanging on to him despite all the Odegaard hype. I'm not getting rid of Saka. He's scoring well below, I think, his expectations. On the whole, happy with 77 points given the exposure I had. I also chose to go without a third City asset. Chose to ditch Cancelo and not get a double game week defender in, because I think across all 4 teams who doubled, there wasn't a single clean sheet across the 8 fixtures, were there, for anybody.
No, there wasn't. United were closest, weren't they? Yeah. I think just to come on to the Arsenal triple midfielders, the trio. I get all your points on Saka, and it was definitely unlucky to be removed so late, because, like I said, I didn't even realise it had been until last night. But I think Saka gets quite lucky with assists. Actually, I'm gonna because looking at it, and I've not included the only FPL assists in here, so this number will be higher. But using understats figures, his XA is 3.46. He's got 7 assists. I think he massively overperformed his assists last season as well. You look at Martinelli, he's got 2 actual assists from 5.28. And then Odegaard is pretty much performing in and around of where he'd expected. So he has, I think he's done quite well, because there's been quite a few of the assists where he's got for Odegaard where he struck outside the box, like the one against Spurs. So it's no dent on his potential, but I think overall he doesn't create that many big chances. A lot of his assists tend to involve really, really good finishes.
Interesting. It's going to be an interesting. It's going to be an interesting chat on which 2 of the 3 we go with as well. I'm sure we'll touch on that either later on or next week. 82 minus 4 for me as well. Triple captain Haaland. Get it with Mitrovic. I've just been looking, and my first instinct is, as always, when someone misses a penalty in that fashion, is get rid of him. But he does his next 3 fixtures, even though they like the next 2 are Spurs and Chelsea, leaky Spurs, leaky Chelsea. So I'm thinking of holding now, but we'll chat about that a bit later. But
it was looking back at it, it was a really bad penalty, and I know everyone will say it's unlucky, but his technique. If you think of it logically, you don't. How many people do you see fall over taking free kicks or corners? It very, very rarely happens, but it happens on penalties, and the reason it does is because he's trying to send the goalkeeper the wrong way, so his weight on his left foot is a bit all over the place. It happened with Terry in the final. So when he's slipping on penalties, a lot of the time, it's just poor technique, and he shouldn't be on penalties. And I think if you're a Mitrovic owner and they get a penalty, you'd rather Andreas take it. His record is absolutely atrocious.
Even when he scored earlier in the season, it kind of went under the keeper, was really fortunate to go in.
Martinez probably should have saved it. With his record, he was very disappointed not to save that. But I worry about Mitrovic personally.
I think I'm happy to hold for a couple of weeks, just because Spurs and Chelsea defensively are just all over the place, and I think he can just, I just think Mitrovic up against Dyer, even Romero, I just think he'll bully him. Chelsea, even though they kept a clean sheet, Kepa had to make 5 saves. I do fancy Mitrovic for a couple, especially since obviously, and we're going to talk about this in more detail now, with the FA Cup next weekend, things are going to fall in place. We're going to know who to move on to, right? Yeah. But on to a new feature, Rich's creation, called the Green Arrow Chip Spaffometer. And Rich came up with you mentioned it last season a little bit, didn't you, about spaffing chips. We had a bit of a discussion over the old WhatsApp chat around the definition of spaff, and was it Adam came up with the definition of spaff that's used in the in-betweeners, which is very different to what Rich means. I'm assuming anyway, Rich. I'm not sure, but
the Boris Johnson definition, or the Collins dictionary,
not the in-betweeners one. But you just want to
wasted or squandered is what we mean by spaffed on this section. Hence the bin emoji. So this is a little bit of fun to have through the season as we get into chip season now, and a couple of them have already been played. You'll see a little table on the slide that shows each of the 4 chips, and we're just going to have a look and have a little discussion and award either a smashed it, a meh, or a spaffed emoji to each one, according to what the community thinks, what we think, and then we'll see how we've done with our chip strategies at the end of the season. Who's got the most fireballs? So I'll pretty obvious. I'll throw it open to both of you, as you've played your triple captain first of all. So first of all, what's your opinion on how well you did, Adam? Really?
My name's Adam, and I have spaffed my triple captain. That's how I think. I mean, it's not a disaster, and anyone that captained Mane a few seasons back and he went off injured after 20 minutes. That is the ultimate disaster. But I think it could have gone a lot better, and particularly, City scoring 4 at home, which is what I expected against Spurs. I thought that game would be more open than the United game. I think I'd have been happy with 2 returns and some bonus. So I feel a bit deflated with the single return. It's not going to be season defining. It's not going to be a disaster, but it could have been a lot better. And if you offer me my triple captain back for those 8 points, I would do it without hesitation.
I don't know. I think I've got quite a little. I think I'm much more in the May camp. I'm trying to decide for myself whether it's because I was more relieved that he got something, or whether I'd have taken it, because I haven't had a fantastic experience with the chip over the years. So I did have Alexis Sanchez. I can't remember what year that was. 20. I don't know if it was 16 when he's got his 28 point, whatever it was, and obviously Salah last year got 26 points, was it, or something along those lines. But other than that, I've had all sorts of Manes and Sanes and Carnes and 1 pointers, 3 pointers, 6 pointers. Even Salah on the opening day a few years ago, if you remember, I triple captained him for his 12 pointer, and I felt that was a bit of a success.
Didn't you? Yeah.
So I'm in the May camp, because obviously it definitely haven't smashed it, right? I think you've got to expect a minimum of 2 or probably 3 returns to say smashed it. But if Haaland hadn't returned last night, I think spaff is absolutely fair. But I'm a bit in the May camp. I'm not too bad about it. I got a green arrow. I've moved. I went from something like 460k to 360k, so gained 100k rank. Obviously, there's more than that, right? In terms of what got that arrow, but I see it as a move forward. So I don't know whether I'm just like glass half full and Adam's glass half empty.
Well, this is it. I mean, I think I would describe you as a glass is half full person, Fergie. You're a very positive, optimistic chap. So that's probably a very good mental reaction to what you've gone through, to see it in the positive light. And it's far better to be that way, isn't it, than spend the day down in the dumps and thinking you've blown it. Really.
So I asked a question before we came on, and Adam mentioned around whether if you could put the 8 points back and have the chip, would you do that? And I would do that, and I think I would agree. But then I suppose if you'd spaffed it, right? So say we were on 4 points, you'd do that without hesitation, right? And you probably would buy it, because you mentioned the word buy it back, as in buy it back, right? So I suppose the question I got for you is, and I tried to explain this before we went live, maybe not very well, but 8 points is easy to say, right? That I'd give it back. Even 10, maybe even 12, you'd say, do you know what? I'll do it. But would you buy it back? Would you buy it back, in terms of if you had to pay a -4, and I'm gonna add 50% on that for the triple captain chip, so -6. Would you give the 8 points back and pay a -6 to have your chip back? And I suppose if you say, I think you would do that if he only scored 4 points. I think. I'm not sure you'd do it if he scored the 8 points. I'm interested in your thoughts on that.
No, I think it's a fine line. Like I said, I'd have been happy with, I think, 12 to 15 points.
Yeah.
That's what I was hoping to get from it.
Yeah.
So, but the disappointment, it isn't huge, and it was never going to be. I was never going to be over the moon or really deflated either way. I'm just disappointed with the outcome. Yeah. I would have liked. I'd have said 12 to 15, 12 plus points. I'd have said I'm satisfied.
Yeah.
With that, and that's what I was hoping to get. And I think a lot of the algorithms were predicting that. I mean, he got 180 minutes as well, didn't he?
That's what he based it off. 180 minutes against whoever he plays. You think he gets a goal in both games minimum.
Yeah. But just a couple of points. You know, you've got 4 of those points are appearance points anyway, aren't they?
Yeah.
So you know you're going to normally get 4 appearance points in a double game week for anyone before you've done anything, assuming you've captained them. So you know, it's really only getting an extra 4 points for that triple captainship. You know, so
Rich rubbing salt into the wounds.
I just think it to me it just tips it towards the SPAF classification. And we've got to be a bit careful here because this is the first one we're rating, right? Yeah. So we're setting a bar for what we're going to do. So I mean, ultimately, I think the casting vote has to lie with the people that played the chit, right? But it's like if you want to push it into a mare, then we're being quite generous there, I think. Although what does the chat say? Any comments
let's ask
in the chat,
Fergie? Can we just have one word or another off everyone watching? MEH or spaffed, and we'll use that as well. So Adam, are you still in the spaffed camp after that discussion?
Yeah, I'm in the spaffed camp. I've not changed my mind.
I think after Rich just spelt it out like that, I think I'm moving a bit more to the spaffed camp. But let's leave it to the community anyway, and we'll see.
But I'm not too downbeat about it. But I'm just trying to look back.
I wasn't, but.
Then another day when he hit the bar with that goes in and he gets maximum bonus. It's a totally different story, isn't it? So
I mean, the other thing is obviously there hasn't been quite, because the first game was blank, there hasn't been quite the tidal wave of content about the good decision, bad outcome kind of rhetoric in terms of for me, the reason I didn't play it was City scored, I think, before yesterday's game, City scored 33 goals in the first 10 games of the season. And in the last 10 games of the season, they've scored 13. That is a massive difference. Just never mind expected goals. That is just goals scored. That has to be considered to be a drop-off in the way they were playing earlier in the season. Now, obviously, when we saw in the second half yesterday how they played and how they effortlessly scored 4 goals when they've gone up a gear, clearly what Pep wants, and if you didn't watch the interview from last night, you've got to watch that interview, about 6-minute rant about everything. He wants that performance in the second half for 90 minutes every week. Yeah. He wants them swarming all over teams. Literally, Tottenham's defence just looked like a sieve, didn't it?
That's what they used to do, didn't they?
Exactly.
That's how they played for years. Yeah.
You just there hasn't been that consistency of performance certainly since the restart, and therefore for me, I just thought, no, I'm not seeing it. I'm just not seeing it enough, especially with those two opponents. I think I got it almost. I think I was at one point I was almost there. I think I said they could both be 2-2 draws last week. One of them was 2-1, and the other one was 2-2 for a while. So it was clear there was always going to be goals in the game, and I just didn't see the big haul for Haaland. Now, I'm not saying I was absolutely right. It was just one of those ones where he could have had a bigger haul than he did. So unlucky, boys.
We've had roughly 30 to 40 comments in the chat. Thank you so much, everyone, for voting. 90%.
I know which way this is going. It's not going to be 90% there, is it?
90% have chosen spaffed, and FPL Bain even says massive spaff. Yeah. We've had Relic Return says spaffy duck.
Spaffy duck.
Yeah, we've had. Yeah, I think we've spaffed
not even a question.
I think we've spaffed it.
We'll update that slide next week.
We will have to update the slide. welcome to the chat. Sorry, I haven't welcomed everyone to the chat. We've been on for 20 minutes, but welcome everyone. Thank you so much all for voting. Ollie Salenson is in the chat. Almost comic. FPL Scoped says 100%. Spaff, as does a broken machine. Colin Johnston, Zoran Cabrillo, Colin Buger, Paul H, Jim Pro 100. FPL Kahuna says, hey dudes. FPL Popo, Colin Johnson, Immortal Technique, and so many. FPL Fozzie, Tino Sekera, and so many other people. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We really, really appreciate it. Just a quick reminder that our My Team feature on fantasyfootballhub.co.uk that shares your personalised recommended transfers each week for your team. Using artificial intelligence is now live. It's free for 7 days too. Go and give it a go. There's a link in the description below. It's pretty good. And we've also have a Discord server live now. The link is below in the chat. Really enjoying it actually. I'm not like a massive one normally for the chats, but I do like the Discord server. So I am on there. Our link is below. Come and join us. Come and chat fantasy football with all us guys. We'll also set up a dedicated Green Arrow chat room as well, so you can come and have a chat with all of us. Rich, what are we talking about today?
Okay, yeah. So, well, we've got some fixtures up, and that's largely, leads into the main topic. I mean, probably a large portion of the audience will be thinking about saving a transfer this week. It seems to be the sensible thing to do, given the amount of information we'll learn. So we're going to cover everything we're going to learn in the next couple of weeks in a minute. But really, there could be there's the question to be asked. Do you buy now? There are several options that have emerged in game week 20. Some premium options, some real form options, or do we save it for later? Do we keep our powder dry and go later? So we are going to highlight some players. If you do have a team situation or a transfer to burn this week, that you could make a transfer this week. So we're going to briefly touch on some lower priced options that could come into our team, some of the edge or sort of fifth mid type positions. But really, I think it's a time for patience right now, and I think many will agree that we're going to find out so much in the next 2 weeks, the last 2 weeks of January, over what the fixtures are going to look like, that it's worth having two transfers going into game week 22. So you can see from the fixtures here, we've only got one confirmed double game week, which was for the two league leaders, Manchester City and Arsenal, who play each other during that game 23 in their rearranged fixture. So most of us are already pretty well ready for that game. We just had a chance to get City assets for the double last week. Many teams are already carrying at least 2 or 3 Arsenal assets. So getting ready for game week 23 can be done in game week 23. Really, we're all just waiting for information on what fixtures are to come. So I don't know if you have anything to add on the fixtures, but the other key thing is that game week 25 is not shown here because we don't yet know exactly what it's going to look like, and that's part of the information that's going to come out of the Carabao Cup competition that's taken place. The semi-finals are in the middle of the next game week. So it's about the next 4 weeks. This is sorted in terms of expected points, is it, for the teams?
Points scored for the teams,
yeah. Okay, rather than fixture difficulty. Yeah, okay. So City and Arsenal at the top. Brighton obviously are a form team at the moment. They're coming in third there based on recent performances. And look really strong, and you'll see some of their assets featured later on in some of our recommendations. But I really just think it's a time for saving a transfer this week. Sounds really dull and boring, but it's not always about get this player, get that player. So,
Adam, what's your thinking on the landscape for the coming weeks? We haven't obviously mentioned yet that game week 22 could be a double. We will talk about the points now, but Man United and Leeds have been kind of mooted to have a double pushed in there. But what's your thinking, Adam, for the coming week or two?
I sort of agree with everything Rich says, but to counterbalance it, I think there's going to be opportunities because what's quite good. You talked about a lot of people wanting to save a transfer, which I get. It makes sense because we'll know more. But that means there's this pool of fairly low owned players who are in good form, playing well, who've started since the game week 17 restart, have started really well. That there's an opportunity to get on them and to almost think, do you know what? Forget the double game week, or forget game week 25. I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. I'll take the points now, and so I think that could be an alternative approach, because I think there's some players that, for whatever reason, haven't quite cut it since the return. So I think there is an opportunity to think, do you know what? I'm going to play aggressive. Most people haven't got Brighton players, but based on the ownership, so there's a good example. I thought Leeds looked quite good against Villa, particularly from an attacking perspective. Well, I say particularly, they didn't look good from a defensive, from an attacking perspective. So I think there are some opportunities. So I suppose what it comes down to your risk appetite as well. It comes down to, there'll be some people that might want to, might plan to free hit in game week. Is it 25? For the blank for the League Cup, or game week 28. So it just depends on your risk appetite. There are good options to get now that I think will get you points, but I know what Rich is saying. It's sort of probably what I will do at the moment is that the amount of information that we'll gain over the next couple of weeks, and it's probably more that the opportunity. So Arsenal double in 23, we know that, as well as City. I've got 2 Arsenal, 2 City, so straight away I want to use 2 transfers to potentially treble up there. Potentially United could double, so it probably does make sense to save. And then if you look at the entry points for this week, United have got Arsenal, haven't they? So
yeah. Have you got that list, that slide with all the things that we'll learn?
Yes, we have. I'll tell you what. I'll run through them because I seem to have made a bit of a boo boo on the thing because I was rushing before we came on. But so. Things we'll learn in game week 21. So one thing that's been mooted and seems probably more likely than not is a potential Man United versus Leeds double game week, which would give Man United a double home to Palace, home to Leeds. And this was one you touched on last week, Adam, would be what you thought would potentially be a better opportunity for a triple captain. Just out of interest, touching on that. So, Shaw and Rashford are probably the 2 main protagonists for Man United. Bruno's obviously done really, really well. Who would your third United player of choice be at the moment, chaps? Adam, who would yours be? Would it be Bruno or would it be someone else?
Yeah, Bruno, without a doubt. So when I was looking at this, and I think it's probably a shame we didn't have a few more data points before they returned. But if I look at Bruno's last 5 Premier League games, and what he's done. So I'm just going into it now. His expected, his XG and his XA. Usually, again, I'm just using understacks. Got it here. But Palace, it was 0.91. His XA. So hang on a second. So yes, he had he'd got over an expected goal involvement of over 1. Against Man United, it would have been, I think it's 0.84. Against Bournemouth, it's again over 1. Against the game before that, against Wolves, it was like 0.9. That's about 0.8. And then it was over 1 against Forest as well, or close to 1 against Forest. So it's more on the assist side, but he's arriving in the box as well. So for me, absolutely, I like Bruno, and he'll be on penalties as well. I'm fairly confident in that. I think he gave the one to Rashford so he could keep his streak going. So I think Bruno is a really, really good pick. And it's probably, I think we've got to bear in mind, if we went back 2 seasons ago with pre-Ronaldo, how good was Bruno?
Oh, he was unbelievable.
And he's starting to see signs of that. And he's obviously a discounted price. So I think it's not a question of, I think a lot will go Bruno. I think Bruno will rival Rashford for the captaincy as well.
And what's nice, I suppose, is if we do save a transfer this week, because obviously to go straight to Bruno is quite difficult now unless you go from De Bruyne, which you're not going to do. I'm guessing, obviously, because City are home to Wolves, and then they've got Spurs again, and they've got the double. But you could potentially move some funds around, right, within your team to enable you to get Bruno. So maybe kind of Almiron to Bruno or someone of that ilk. So you can, because they've got Arsenal this weekend. They got Arsenal this weekend. You can afford to leave it probably. So yeah, I think with United got next game week, they're home to Palace. And then obviously they could have the double, and then they've got Leeds, then Leicester after that. So yeah, you can expect probably a lot of points for United. So well done to anyone who got in Bruno last week. What a move that was. The other things we're going to learn, the FA Cup 5th round qualifiers and the draw, which will be interesting because that's more kind of concentrated towards blank game week 28, but it will probably allow the Premier League to arrange some fixtures that haven't been prearranged yet back into the schedule. So that'll be interesting because it could mean a bigger game week 22. And I think that Ben Crellin has also said that we can expect quite a lot of mini double game weeks as well for different teams, depending how things land. So we might get a much clearer landscape after the FA Cup. So again, another reason to save Rich, I suppose. So is what you're saying there. And obviously more clarity on blank game weeks 25. So Newcastle and Man United are playing, I think it's Forest and Southampton respectively, or the other way around. But if things go as planned, they would both go through to the final. I mean, they were both blank in 25, their fixtures. I suppose I'm quite interested in this because if that does happen, we could see a fairly big blank. We'll probably touch on this more next week now, but I haven't kind of ruled out, I don't know, a bit of an earlier wild card, which... talking about spaffing, it could be we could be in Spaff City
earlier than I thought.
or even a free hit. But I don't think we know enough yet, do we, to actually say whether to go or not. We need the results of the next week or two. So the next one is massive, right?
I think there was a piece of content last week. A lot of people have talked about. James from Planet FPL does a really good sort of look into the future. He did it earlier than he normally does it. He normally does it after the 4th round of the FA Cup because when you get more clarity. But he did have a go at looking at what that sort of future blank and double landscape looks like. Well worth listening to if you want to. Planet FPL, but. It's just a bit early. We're like a week. We're going to learn so much in the next 2 weeks, particularly about that blank. Look, we're all saying it's a done deal that Newcastle and United are going to play the Carabao Cup, but Forest their form has improved. So has Southampton. I know it's over 2 legs, but we could find that it doesn't pan out the way we expected, and that we do get different finalists, and therefore that brings assets from Brighton onto the agenda, because they're one of the teams that blanks. You could start looking at Ivan Toney again because of Brentford, blanking. There's so many teams could blank who we want players from potentially, but just waiting a week and all the mist will go away, and we'll be able to plan with a lot more confidence.
I'm sorry,
some transfers.
I'm only smiling because Sachin put in the chat, Fergie spaffing a wild card with a question mark, as it's pretty standard thing for me to do. But no, I don't know. I think of my rank as well. Like, what am I now? 250k. I don't really mind anymore about I've got to achieve a minimum rank anymore. So I do think there could be opportunities to jump on players earlier, earlier than others. Save the free hit then in 25. Everyone would love Brighton players now, right? Their fixtures are superb, but the concentration's not going to be around getting Brighton players in, for example, because it's going to be around Man United and then making sure you got Man City and blah, 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 right? But playing a wild card, for example, in game week 24 or even ahead of 25 could be something which... imagine you jumped on. Stop smiling, Adam. On mid. Imagine jumping on Mito.
I'm thinking you're talking about wild carding for Solly March. That's the levels we got.
I'm thinking of Solly March. I'm thinking of a collection of players. So what you got on the screen now, which we're going to touch on next. But
exactly. Yeah.
If the form continues, there's a lot of mega cheap players which completely restructure your team, right? So just couple of players we've got in front of us now. I'll call out Solly March. Thank you, Adam. Solly March. I'll call out Solly March. Call out Mitoma. Call out Antonto, and not sorry,
Ganonto.
I'm so sorry. I cannot say his name. Et al. Right, and these sorts of players were performing well now. They could fall off, right? But a lot of players have got. A lot of managers have got Newcastle assets and right. Whereas after that double in 23, there will be more. I'm just saying that there could be an opportunity to completely restructure your team and really steal a march. Excuse the pun, Adam. Steal a march. That should be the name of the name of the pod.
Steal
right?
a march. Yeah,
steal a march. Over the rest, while everyone's still stuck with bloody Almiron and Kevin De Bruyne, still not just doing naff all every week. You could be.
Rather than De Bruyne, you could have Solly March.
You could be spaffing around with Solly March and
you could be Morgan Gibbs-White,
Rodrigo, and But anyway, Rich, you've got the slide up around shopping the value. This is go on.
Again, there were many candidates that could have made it onto the slide. I don't think you had a picture of Wilfred Ganonto, did you? That's the reason he's not on the slide. Right. Certainly, he's not yet made it into the source library that we get these dudes from. But there's all these guys actually on the slide are midfield players, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. They're all. I think Ward-Prowse is probably the most expensive, but he's under 6.5, isn't he now? I think they're all under 6.5 million. Most of them are around the 5.5 million mark or below, and they offer exceptional value on teams that are improving in form. So yes, we've talked a lot in previous pods about City assets, Arsenal assets, United assets. These top teams that are doubling at the moment. We've just had a double. There is a little bit of breathing space to now consider players at the lower level, perhaps who are where we've got these fringe positions in our teams, fifth defender, fifth mid, third striker. They don't cost as much. There's an opportunity to generate some cash by coming down off an asset like, say, a Mitrovic or whatever to a Ganonto or an Evan Ferguson, another person who should have been on this slide, because a lot of us are now carrying three premiums. We've got Kane, Haaland, De Bruyne combinations that we're probably not going to break up straight away due to the doubles, and now we're going to be a bit stuck for cash, particularly if we want a bandwagon player like a Mahrez or a Fernandes. You're going to need to generate 2 million quite quickly in order to make that step up with the second transfer to a Mahrez. Say Andreas to Mahrez might be a popular move. One of the mid-price mids up to Fernandes might be a very popular move given 2 free transfers. So these are the enabling players, and they're not only enablers, they're also on cracking form with cracking fixtures. So let's just take the Brighton guys. It's been a lot of content this week out there about comparing whether Mitoma is a better asset than March. There's only 0.1 price difference between them. I think one's 5.1, one's 5.0. Trossard has now moved to Arsenal, so he's pretty much nailed Mitoma's spot down. And both of them are, cracking buys for that. I'll let Adam talk about Buendia, who's in the foreground there. His form's really picked up just from the eye test that I can see, for Villa, looking really good. And James Ward-Prowse has scored 4 goals since the restart. He left out of the England team, but now arguably, asking for his place back. So loads of great options here. Even Forest, Morgan Gibbs-White's form's really picked up. I think he's got 3 double point hauls in the last 5 weeks. 5.5 million, probably Forest's best buy out of all the 25 players they brought in this season. He's really starting to show some return on that investment now. So even Gibbs-White is a consideration. There's so many options here. Particularly, finally, just so many of our teams are template. They're the same. This is an opportunity to just get in a cheap differential that will that potentially will improve our ranks. What do you think?
Yeah, I sort of agree with the players that you're selecting and the point, but I suppose like this is probably more for a lot of people. It's going to be for next week because we talked about the importance of saving transfers. I think Gnonto, or however you pronounce his name, looks really good. He was brilliant at Villa Park.
Goal against Cardiff he scored as well. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, he looks a player, and I think at 5 million, it's good he's a forward as well. And if Leeds get a double game week, I think he'll be really, really popular. So I think it's sort of, to be honest, I think with him and Ferguson, it makes sense to take. I like Haaland and Kane, but I think Tony's potentially got a ban looming over him and blanks. Mitrovic has been a bit hit and miss, can't take penalties. So I think it's worth. I actually do think if I look at my watch list, it's all midfielders. My defence, I'm fairly set. There's so many good midfielders at the moment. So I think going 3-5-2 with Gnonto or Ferguson makes sense. And I think we all got blinded by the Pereira double game week. So a lot of people, and Mitrovic, so a lot of people went that way. But I think 3-5-2 or is probably the way to go.
And with Gnonto as well, you can have a 3-5-2 which transitions each week to whatever, like a 3-4-3, because Bamford is back, which is interesting because we'll have to see how Leeds configure their attack now he's back, because you would assume he would play. So I'm not quite sure what that does to Gnonto and Rodrigo and players like that. But that you can play a Gnonto maybe because they're so cheap. They're all so cheap. I can't remember the last time that we had 3 or 4 players around the 5 million mark who arguably, like, if Mitoma was 6.5, we'd still be looking at him, and like they're all so cheap that you can basically have who you want, can't you? So it's a nice place to be. You're not just having to put, even Evan Ferguson, who potentially looks a really good option. Not sure if he's going to keep on playing every week, but he could end up being a non-playing player.
That's right. But everyone on that slide, bar Buendia, I think it is, could potentially miss game week 25. So you just need that extra week of information, don't we, before we make the decision. But do you want to say anything about Buendia though?
Well, I think Bailey's the better option. That's what I would say.
Okay.
Right. Bailey's hit and miss, but he's got the X factor of, and he pretty much made Buendia's goal. I think Buendia's, a lot of Villa fans have been disappointed with Buendia since he's been playing recently. I disagree. I think he's actually showing the other side of his game. I mean, the amount of tackles he's winning and winning the ball back, I think he's actually doing quite well. And and the 2 goals he's scored, he's found himself in almost poacher positions. So I quite like him in this role. But I think I would say all of the other options I prefer. And I think I'd prefer Bailey as well, because Bailey, whether he's playing
4.5 now as well, hasn't he? Gone down to 4.5 or something.
Yeah, 4.5. He's playing up front. He's playing, also he pretty much provides all of our width on the right hand side. Whether he's playing as a wide striker or he's a wing, whatever you want to call him, but he provides all of the width that side. So I do like Bailey, and think something to notice on Bailey. Let me just check this because. But I'm pretty sure that all of his returns have come at Villa Park. His goals have anyway. I know that. So yeah. So if I look at him at so at Villa Park, he scored against Leeds, Man United, Brentford, and Man City. I'm going to say So he's quite explosive at Villa Park. I think he's got the odd assist away from home. He got an assist against v Palace, but I'm pretty sure all his goals have actually come in front of the whole end as well. So there could be something in that he likes the adulation and all of that. So I think Bailey's a good option because you could just play him in the home games and then not in the away, because he is noticeably better at Villa Park.
There's plenty in the chat. I've just been informed that Leeds have just spent 30 million on a forward as well. So it just adds,
oh, really?
on a French number 9, I think they're saying, for a record fee. So it's just something to be aware of again with Leeds. I still think Nonto will play because he tends to play a bit wide, doesn't he? But
yeah, we say he plays on the wing, doesn't he? So he's a forward in FPL. But everything I saw of him, I really liked, and I don't think he's the sort of player you're taking out of the team because he caused Villa so many problems. Rodrigo's been good as well, consistent. Whether Bamford or the new guy come in, who knows? But
just looking at predicted points for the next 4 game weeks. So this obviously includes the double game week for Arsenal and Manchester City in game week 23. Haaland is top, 37.7. De Bruyne, 30.5. That drop-in was a bit strange last night, wasn't it? There was rumours of kind of personal issues and stuff, and maybe a knock or whatever else. But that was a bizarre one. Are you guys planning on holding him still? I suppose we have to.
Yeah, I think he should play the Wolves game given the short turnaround. I think he scored 4 goals against Wolves the last time he played him, so I can't see him missing that one. But Pep's having a pop at everybody, isn't it, across the squad at the moment? No one's really safe. Even Haaland.
He likes Ake and Rico Lewis are the two he's bigging up. The rest
but he didn't play Rico Lewis the weekend,
no,
did he? So I don't think anyone's safe. I'll be tempted to ditch De Bruyne next week.
Ahead of a double
away at Spurs.
If that,
but I might bring him back
double,
for the double. It's an easy route to Bruno, isn't it? So I'd be tempted. Yeah. They've got Spurs away, so I don't think it's I'd be tempted by that, and then I might bring him back, or I might go different. I might go Mahrez and someone else.
Yeah,
fair.
I think Mahrez and Alvarez possibly.
Yeah. Kane is third. I thought Kane was very unlucky against Arsenal. He was,
wasn't he?
3 shots on target. Little unlucky last. I say unlucky last night. He probably got the assist. So he probably did even out against a chance or two. But he still looks there. He's good. He's such a good footballer. I can't. He's such a good footballer. I just love watching him play. He very, very rarely loses the ball. His passing, like the way he brings everything to play, is just. He's just world class. You can tell I'm a Spurs fan.
I think he's a no-brainer at his price. He's cheaper than De Bruyne and Salah.
He is, that's right. Yeah.
We've said there's so many midfield options. I just think
I agree.
him and Haaland, and then have fun in midfield.
Yeah.
There's so many good options.
Right.
That I think going 3-5-2 is the way to go.
Odegaard is third at 26.6. Another man in fine form. Salah is 4.26. Saka, then Rashford, Martinelli, Mahrez. They're all on roughly 24, 25 expected points. Nketiah, 23. Darwin, assuming he's back from injury. Son has moved right down because of his form. Mitoma is up there, 21.7. And then we go further down. But some big names in there. And just looking at the price points, it's obviously, the premiums are kind of up there, but there's a lot in that, 6 to 8 million range or 6 to 9 million range. As you said, Adam, it's really, it would be really exciting to go into the coming weeks with, imagine going into the next few weeks with, especially if United double with and plenty of people will have this already, but Bruno, Rashford, Saka, Martinelli and Mahrez or Mitoma or someone like that.
I think if there is a double game week next week in 22, there's an opportunity to, if you save this week, to do 3 or 4 transfers and set up your team and attack it. I think you can get away with that. So and then the following week is double game week. So I think it does make sense to probably save this week and then really set your team how you want. So you could do the Nonto transfer, couldn't you, next week to take the funds out and then put the funds into midfield. I think that makes sense.
So a Mitrovic.
What do you think?
Mitrovic to Nonto,
would save a couple of million, then you can upgrade Almiron to Brew. I don't know if that works.
One player we haven't mentioned. What do you think Trossard is going to do at Arsenal in terms of the risk to Martinelli's position and other other setups.
I think he'll warm the bench to start with.
I do as well.
I think I don't see any way he's been isolated at Brighton. I think it's for squad depth more than anything else. I think Martinelli has got the shirt. He's not let Arteta down. He's been playing extra minutes in the Europa League. So I think there's that. I think it's a squad depth signing. I think he might get the odd 20 minutes, but I do not see him starting. If you look at the players that Arsenal bought in, so when Vieira hasn't taken Odegaard's or anybody else's place, I think it's a depth signing.
They got Europe, haven't they, soon? And things. So and I if you think of that midfield, Martinelli, Odegaard, and Saka, you could probably cruise in Nketiah in that since the restart. But what have they done wrong to put their place at risk? Their system they play suits them perfectly, and there's no way they're going to upset the apple cart there.
And he's not. He's got a settled side there. He's not
exactly. He plays the same 11 every week.
Yeah, exactly.
I think what thing I like about Arteta, he's very anti-Pep. The team is going to put out. You can trust it, and I quite like that. System. And I think Martinelli has been a little bit unlucky because against Spurs, he was very under the radar, but he created 2 or 3 really good chances for Nketiah, and he fluffed his lines on every occasion. So, I'm quite happy holding Martinelli at the moment.
Yeah.
Tempted to wild card in a couple of weeks. Anyway, let's move.
You would.
But you say you're tempted to wild card. You could, if we've got 2 double game weeks coming up, just make 3 or 4 transfers. Really.
I know you're right.
Take a few minus and the wild card's too powerful, I think. And I just don't think if you got Kane, you got Haaland. I think you've got a similar defense to me. You set up quite nicely. It's just sorting out the midfield, but you can do that with 3 or 4 transfers.
You are right. I just don't like taking a minus. Like I don't take a -8, which puts me on the back foot. I just don't like it. I just think I could wild card. I could sort out those little problem points I've got, like bloody Patterson, and all these little problems I've got. And because I think that the value is going to remain all season. That's why I think you completely restructure your team. Not cost you any points. People will be taking points all around me. They'll be taking, as you said, -4s, -8s, -12s.
Yeah.
You can just get ahead on it, but obviously they have their wild card
honestly,
later.
Mate, you're gonna get what you want in the next 14 days because someone is gonna come up with that, that optimum path through the next 8 weeks once these fixtures are known and once the FA drops in a load of these rearranged fixtures. Someone will suddenly go, look, if you wild card here and you free hit there and you bench boost there and you take a -20 here, then you're going to get 18 extra fixtures, and someone's going to say that's worth any number of hits, and then someone will work it out and it'll all be presented, maybe only with 4 hours notice like it was previously, but you'll have to make a quick decision, but it will all suddenly become so much clearer.
The way things are going, the spaffometer is going to be back for the next pod.
It'll be back all through February.
We'll see. Let's look at the best captain for game week 21. Looking at the hub predictor, Haaland home to Wolves, 8.8 points. Harry Kane away to Fulham, 8.6. De Bruyne, 7.1. Son, 6.3. So 2 pretty good fixtures. I would say, though, I think Wolves have definitely improved defensively.
They have.
And so I think the algorithm is probably taking the old Wolves defense into account. Mahrez 5.6, Salah 5.6. I do fancy Salah home to Chelsea this week. I do think Liverpool will get a couple of goals. I think they'll concede, but I think they get a goal or 2.
You're gonna play Kepa or Ward?
I haven't really thought yet, to be honest.
We'll
probably Kepa for the saves, but we'll see. Tony 5.3, Bowen 5.2. So I think West Ham, have they got Everton this week?
Must-win game.
Odegaard 5, and then we go down. So immediate odds checker, I've got Haaland at 11 to 20. So the equivalent of 1 to 1 as he has been for most of the season. Kane, interestingly, I was looking at this. Kane 6 to 5, so odds against to score. Tony 6 to 5, Salah 17 to 10. Looks massive odds to score against Chelsea. I think that's really big. And just finally, the poll: Haaland at 81%, Kane 10%. So, Adam, come to you first. What are your thoughts on captaincy for the weekend?
I am tempted by Kane. I think it's a really close one because part of me, with the triple captain, having done that with the triple captain, I just know that if I don't captain Haaland, you know what's going to come, don't you? That's what's in the back of my mind. But Kane has been very consistent at both home and away. And I think the Fulham fixture is a better fixture. I think I've really impressed Wolves when they come to Villa Park. And I think they've developed, particularly as a unit, over the last few game weeks. So, yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I think unless Pep throws in, I think if Haaland's start becomes questionable, and by questionable, I mean, there's a few hints dropped. I think if that happens, I would captain Kane. But as things stand, we all know what's going to happen. I switch the captain to Kane. He gets a hat trick. I've not only spaffed my triple captain, but yeah.
It's the downside of calling it wrong, isn't there? There was this time last year when we did go for it, Adam. Do you remember we both bought Bruno in when we came off Salah?
Yeah.
The rank hit was very tough. You know, it was 50, 60,000 places in the top 100.
Exactly.
It was massive. So it's a real gamble.
What do you think, Rich?
I like the fact I like the fact that Adam's thinking that way. Certainly, if it wasn't for the fact that Tottenham have been largely so poor over the last two games, I'd feel a lot better. I mean, Bentancur coming back is a big difference.
Oh, he's such a good player.
He really is an excellent player, and Kulusevski as well. Those two players make a big difference to Tottenham. But Sonny is so off it. You know, he's so off it. He has no confidence in the penalty area to act quickly. I mean, he should be dropped. Richarlison should be playing, in my view. But you know, I think that you might see that this weekend. But it's the Tottenham's defence that puts me off. I mean, it shouldn't really necessarily affect their attacking returns, but they're all over the place. So I think because of that, I will keep it on Haaland this week, just because it's a home game.
Fulham have improved defensively as well in the last few weeks.
They have,
which is a factor. I think if we were talking a few weeks ago, I think it'd be a lot more of really a real question. But both Wolves and Fulham's defences have actually improved quite markedly in the last few weeks. So it's not easy, and obviously because Arsenal and Man United, two informed teams, play each other, that probably rules them out. Just quick score prediction on Arsenal Man United. What a game. What an exciting game. Two real informed teams.
1-1.
I think Arsenal win.
Yeah, I think 2-1 Arsenal.
I think 2-1 Arsenal, yeah. I think Arsenal win the game. You just going on to Fulham, the XGC per game since they've returned, expected goals conceded is 1.4. So they've been averaging a goal conceded a game. So you are right; they have definitely tightened up.
I think it was over 2 earlier in the season.
What is Wolves is in the same period?
They're just below actually, 1.5.
Okay.
So yeah, I think the sense of I don't think there's strong enough evidence to go against Haaland. But if we see the press, will we get a press conference? Actually, I don't think we will we?
Well, it'll be on either now or later.
No, because usually when they play on a Thursday, you just have the comments after the game, don't you? So
he gave a pretty big press conference in his interview. It lasted for about 10 minutes.
I haven't seen it. Did he say anything about Haaland?
No, he just basically
the only player he didn't really mention.
He basically ragged out the team and ragged out the fans, saying we need more hunger and desire from all of you. I say ragged them out. I think it's I'm very much in the Roy Keane sort of camp with a lot of things, as in say it as they are. You know, there's no point pussyfooting round. He's saying that at the moment his team, he's calling them out. He's saying there's no desire, there's no hunger, there's no energy, there's no nothing. And but he also said about the fans, which is interesting. But again, we can probably expect a reaction right off the back of that against Wolves. And you don't want to miss out. As good as Wolves have been, Man City in full flight, are no match for anyone, right? They're just on a different level. So, yeah, interesting stuff there. Fergie is a punt for game week 21. It's not a massively exciting one this week. I did look at the opposition defence, and the defence has been particularly poor over the last few weeks. He's playing at home. 5% owned, so slightly high. We have touched him a bit already. He always goes under the radar every season. There's always 2 players goes under the radar. One of them actually hasn't had a good season, but this one is picking up again now, and it is James Ward-Prowse, who's got 4 goals in his last 4 appearances, 10 shots, 7 on target, 4 shots in the box. He's got an XG of 2.24 in the last 4 games, created 3 big chances, 9 key passes. He looks really, really good, and I think that this weekend, home to Villa. Apologies, Adam, but Villa defensively at the moment just haven't looked at it. I think they're in the bottom 3 for XGC since the restart. So I think Ward-Prowse going to give you a bit of a torrid time on the weekend.
No, not too worried. Well, unless you give away. Although he scored a few free kicks against us. I think it was the season before last. So yeah, he's been playing a more advanced role. I think it's a really good shot, and I think he's somebody that. Yeah, because he's great on bonus as well, and he's the sort of player. The only thing with Ward-Prowse is the sort of player you have to play every week.
Yes,
you can never guess his returns
and his price as well. So yeah, I agree.
But I think he's a good. I do think he's worth. I think he's a good option, and I think he could get a return in a 3-1 defeat.
And FPL Fozzie is absolutely right. The other one is Cresswell. He's the one who is always overlooked. However, West Ham are a bit of a mess at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah, overlooked West Ham, definitely.
Adam, we got your team.
Did he lose his job last night? David Moyes gets sacked.
I did see that. I saw a couple of comments, but I didn't see anything this morning. Which you thought it'd be all over the news?
No, I think I saw a tweet that just said Moyes out. I don't know whether that is true or whether he's actually gone or not. But
I'm not
just
sure.
thought I'd bring it up because I wasn't sure.
Adam, we've got your team on screen. This is not probably going to be the most exciting time because it sounds like we're all saving. Are you saving this week?
We've got a -12 planned. Actually.
All
right. Yeah, really good now. Saving.
You got your captain on Kane on this on the screenshot. Is that just because you were thinking about it?
Well, when I sent it to you, it was prior to. I was thinking I could. Give Haaland a bit of a kick up there. But yeah, it didn't work out, did it? So
you've got Kepa, Botman, White, Trippier, Martinelli, Almiron, Rashford, De Bruyne, Haaland, Mitrovic and Kane. Yeah, very, very sensible save.
Yeah, and I'll be captaining Haaland as things stand.
Yep. Rich, very similar team. Sounds like you're definitely saving.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think similar team with Saka over Almiron. Quite happy to play Saka against United. Hope he gets something. Captain Haaland, save the transfer. I think the only thing I would say, there's quite a bit of talk about people moving Almiron on possibly because of game week 25, possibly because he's sort of reverted a bit to the average. But if I had some people have got 2.5 million or something in the bank, tempting to jump on the Mahrez bandwagon if you've got a City slot, isn't it? I have. I've only got 2 City players. It was an incredible performance last night. I can't see him losing his place on that form. And it is a bandwagon. But I'm still going to say this week. But he's definitely in my thoughts as the 3rd City asset for game week 23, rather than getting a City defender, because we saw what happened with defensive transfers in game week 20, didn't we? So I think Mahrez has got to be on people's watch lists as a short-term asset. But yeah, saving this week, mate, and captaining Haaland, nice and safe.
Yeah, agree. And the same, kind of looking ahead to next week, I've got 1.6 in the bank, so I've got Almiron Rich instead of your Saka. Thinking ahead now, if I did Mitrovic down to Nonto, I would have enough. For example, I think to go Almiron up to Bruno next week for free.
That's nice.
For free. But yeah, obviously the whole point of what we said throughout this stream and podcast is we'll get so much more information on lots of. And don't forget that a lot of these teams are playing in the FA Cup as well, aren't they? So you never know. There could be some kind of injury or something, or a switch in form or something which we're not sure of. So yeah, interesting stuff. So that's my early thinking. But like I say, depending on how it all pans out, I mentioned earlier on I didn't mention really on the wild card, but if I did look to maybe wild cards, I'll spap my wild cards in game week 24, for example. As it stands, it looks like game week 25 is going to be a big blank for a lot of people. So there's an opportunity there to think about that as well in terms of setting up the wild cards, you know, and kind of killing two birds with one stone and maybe getting a bit in. Adam's dying to say something. Like, he hovers over his mic. Like, he goes like this. He goes, yeah, but you know, we'll know a lot more. But let me tell you this, trendsetter, people will be thinking about wildcarding in game week 24 or 25.
What are you thinking? Wildcard 24 and then lose all those great Newcastle value assets and Man United players on form, or better still, wildcard in 24 and free hit in 25.
Oh yeah, that would be good.
Literally have no chips left, apart from the useless bench boost to the rest of the season.
We will see. We will see, gents. The spaffometer will tell the story at the end.
Spaffometer tells no lies.
Exactly that.
Tells no lies.
Competition time for our YouTube watchers. Who will be the top FPL point scorer in game week 21? So last week, would you believe we had 3 players who scored 19 points, which is pretty massive actually. Solly March, Bruno Fernandes and Riyad Mahrez all scored 19 points. We did have a few people guess correctly in the chat from last week. Picked one at random. Helga R, so that's Helge and then capital R. Helga R, you have won a Fantasy Football Hub mug as on screen and presented over Rich's shoulder. So congratulations to you for this week's competition and a chance with one of our fantastic mugs. You need to like this video. Please press like. Make sure you are subscribed if you're not, and then comment on who will be the top point scorer in game week 21. Interesting. Dave and Bo says, I wildcarded in 20 and hit 90 with a team that everybody wants now. There's more than one way to play this game. Adam, who do you think is going to be the top point scorer in game week 21?
Oh, it will no doubt be Haaland. I've got no doubt about it. But I won't go for him. I am going to select. Let's have a look at the fixtures. I think a Leeds player I'm going to go for.
Okay.
I'm going to go.
I think it's a good shout.
Yeah, Rodrigo.
Okay. Rich, who do you think is going to be the top point scorer in game 21?
It's a tough old week. I was thinking about picking a Leeds player, but Brentford aren't that great away, are they?
They're terrible away. They're really bad.
Home aside. But as Adam's gone for Leeds, I'll go for something different. I'll stick with Brighton's form and say
good shout.
Say Mitoma. Oh yeah,
good shout. Nice. And I will stick one in Mr. Hopcroft's eye, and I will go for Che Adams. 3 assists from James Ward-Prowse, hat-trick with Che Adams. No, it should be a good game, that one, I think, because Southampton are back in form as well. Well, I say back in form. They've shown some form, haven't they? So
won 3 in a row, haven't they? So
they have, including Man City. FPL Popo, I wildcarded in game week 20, got 96 points also. Interesting stuff, and he's probably got the team that everyone wants now, what we will all be moving on to over the next couple of weeks. But that is it from us for this week. Thank you so much. Give it a go for free. We also now have a Discord server. The link is below in the description. Come in and chat everything fantasy football. Really enjoying the Discord server, I got to be honest. I'm quite big because it's not just FPL, because there's other formats in there as well, and you get a lot of interaction of people, kind of like this chat. In all honesty, it's really, really good. So hop in to the Discord server and chat with us. Christoph says Weghorst, 100%. He's going for Weghorst as the top scorer for the week. We've had some. I'm laughing. I shouldn't laugh. It could be
tough fixture.
It could be anyone. Sanjay Patel says, I thought the FF mug was Fergie. Thank you, Sanjay. Really appreciate that. We've had some shouts for Odegaard, Gibbs White, Brennan Johnson, a couple of Forest shouts, interestingly. Mitoma, KDB, Saka, Kulusevski, Tony, Haaland, Mitoma. Yeah, all interesting stuff. Richarlison for Nuttall. I think he's been listening to you, Rich. Bamford for Relic Return. Some good shouts in there. Adam, thank you so much for joining me. Where can people get hold of you?
Thank you. On Twitter at Hopta Stats.
Lovely stuff. And Rich, thank you so much as usual. Where can people get hold of you?
At Rich Clarke FPL on Twitter as well.
Don't forget, Rich reveals his team exclusively for Fantasy Football Hub members. You also get part of that as part of the 7-day free trial if you join the Hub using the link below. Each and every week, Rich reveals his team pre-deadline, all his thinking, all his thoughts, and his team. My Twitter handle is at FFH_Fergie. Drop us all a follow on Twitter. We're all reasonably active on there. So this podcast and video will be on the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel with the podcast versions available on all major podcast platforms. If you liked what you watched, please press the like button. We've only had 115 likes. We had over 700 people watching at some point. Only 115 likes. Come on, press the like button. We really appreciate it. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast and leave a comment. You can leave us 5 stars on Spotify and Apple and just leave us a comment, say if you enjoy or not. We'll be back in 2 weeks because there's FA Cup next week. We won't be back next week, but we will hopefully be looking forward to a likely double game week 22. It's going to be massive. We may have a big surprise for you for that one as well. Pretty insane if we can get it. In the meantime, the very, very best of luck for game week 21, and may all your arrows be green. Good night all.